What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction video. In this one we have how Brits really view American. British, tell us how y'all really feel. Before we dive in, if you happen to enjoy this, please don't forget to subscribe and give the video a like. Let's dive in and see what y'all be thinking about us. I kind of got an idea what y'all think about us. Loud, rude, among other things. But let's see if I'm right, and let's see how y'all feel.
We've been talking a lot about differences between the UK and the USA. What have you come to believe about that?
So my biggest takeaway from being in America as a Brit is it's like finding out my dad had a kid with another woman that I never met, and we meet for the first time, and I'm like, you're kind of me, but you're not me. It's like he spent a bit more money on you. He made you believe in yourself. Your mom was clearly much nicer or kinder. And you go, oh, Americans, like, we're kind of the same. But
It's like Brits with self-belief.
Brits with self-belief is what Americans are.
Dang. So that's what Americans are, just Brits with self-belief. I love his analogy he used coming into it. You're kind of me, but Dad taught you to believe in yourself a bit more. Your mom was kinder and nicer, but just Brits with self-belief.
It's one of the different. There's lots of pros and there's lots of cons for both. But that was my overwhelming takeaway. The second biggest takeaway I have is that Brits don't really truly realize how impactful the British accent is until you leave Britain. And the metaphor I came up with for describing the British accent to Brits is, imagine everywhere else in the world there's a salmon famine, right? And a British accent is like selling salmon, and the only place in the world where there's an abundance of salmon is in the UK. So if you're there using that, it basically gets you nothing in the UK, but you suddenly leave or go outside
anywhere
the UK,
else and you're exotic.
anywhere else, and they think you're smarter, they think you're more attractive. Yeah.
Americans often ask me when they talk about that, and I do think it's true, that Brits have an unfair advantage in America of being seen as more learned. Like everyone presumes that we're part of the aristocracy or something. And they often ask me, well, what do you think of American accents in the UK? And that was a really interesting question. I was like,
that is.
I actually don't know. I think it's like, certainly for me, on girls, it's like kind of sexy. It that feels exotic in some way. Definitely energetic, overly enthusiastic and excitable, especially when you've got one American in a bunch of Brits. When you're the Brit in a bunch of Americans, oh, well, you know, everyone's just sort of excitable and first-line cocaine energy. But when you drop one American...
Everyone's excitable. First line of cocaine energy is crazy. But I like the way this guy, like, puts it into, like, analogies and everything. Imagine there's a salmon famine everywhere else in the world, but we got an overabundance here in the UK. It's found everywhere here in the UK. So salmon won't get you anywhere here in the UK. But you go outside to these other countries, and they automatically look at you as more smart, as more attractive, as, you know what I'm saying, as all these incredible things. So it's like he said, as a Brit, you got an advantage in America just with your accent. Just accent alone, you already have an advantage. And I ain't gonna lie, I think a British accent is like super dope. Like I'm very impressed with a British accent, which is crazy because it's just how they talk. But I don't know. They just talk really cool.
Well, you know, everyone's just sort of excitable and first-line cocaine energy. But when you drop one American in a like Newcastle or something, oh my God, who is that? It's a nuclear warhead surrounded by a bunch of swords. Yeah, I think since being here, you know, it's made me reflect on the UK. I hate being disparaging about the UK. Like, it's the country that gave me and you our start. We both went to university there. We both had our first jobs there. We both built businesses there. I think we're both in one form or another still registered. You'll be on Company's House in some vestigial old fucking thing. And I really wish that I didn't sort of talk badly about it, but you sent me a tweet last week, and I've been watching Bald and Bankrupt awesome
lost
YouTube
and
channel.
bankrupt.
I invited him on the show. He replied. He said he'd love to, but he's actually trying to actively wind down his public exposure. So he said he keeps getting asked for too many selfie photos in Tesco. And he does strike me as the kind of man that probably doesn't want to be overexposed. You know, he was doing, for the people that don't know, this guy who does kind of like dark tourism stuff, he got trafficked across the border into Mexico. He was detained in a Russian jail for a while. And then he decided he was going to take on the final boss of Dangerous Places, which was seaside towns of the UK. And he just travels around sort of looking at all of these bad places. And you sent me that tweet last week, which I think nails it, which is the UK has the 6th largest economy in the world, but people are confused. The UK doesn't have the 6th largest economy in the world. London has the 6th largest economy in the world. It just has a really poor country attached to a very rich city.
Yeah. Ooh. And then there was another one.
Y'all talk to me in the comment section about that comment. I'm very intrigued by that one. UK don't got the 6th largest economy. London has the 6th largest economy. It's a very poor country attached to a very rich city. Was that statement on the money? Tell me how y'all feel about that one in the comment section.
On which was US universities. So I think in the top 10 universities in the world, the UK has 3 and the US has 3. Yet the US outputs 5 times, those US universities output 5 times the number of entrepreneurs that those UK universities do. So in theory, these people are as intelligent as one another across that. I think it's Oxford, Cambridge, and another university.
King's, maybe Durham?
Maybe, yeah. And what's interesting when you go across global university rankings and outputs of entrepreneurs in the study that was shared, the UK university, which was Oxford, so that's the number 1 for entrepreneurial output, was 50th across the whole world. Despite the fact we rank so high in education, yet actually transforming that into entrepreneurship doesn't seem to happen. And I wonder again whether that's the self-belief thing. You also see this weirdly, and I could be mistaken here. I have this bias that I think Brits are fundamentally more funnier than Americans. However, way more great stand-up comedians that are American than British. Like we have Ricky Gervais, we have Jimmy Carr,
Ricky.
And then in terms of global appeal outside of that, there's not a huge amount more. And my theory behind that is, so why do you have the funniest people, yet not the biggest stand-up comedians out of those names there? And I think the same crabs in a bucket mentality that makes people so funny, because we can shoot people down and shoot ourselves down, is the same thing that makes it absurd as a concept to go and get on stage and say, I want to be a funny person. Like that in the UK. So I think the funniest guy in the world right now is probably in a Greg's in Wigan, or he is in a pub in Portsmouth. And because of that crabs in a bucket mentality, Americans are way more likely to get on stage and go, I want to be a funny person, because that's part of the American DNA. Meanwhile, the Brits, who I think are actually funnier, don't end up doing as much stand-up
entrepreneurial
as well as
spirit.
Entrepreneurial, yeah.
But
okay, so he feels like the British are funnier. And shoot, I react to a lot of British content on my comedy channel. Brits are absolutely hilarious. Y'all are truly, truly funny. There are truly hilarious American comedians as well. But he's like, it's Brits, I guess, just while he thinks they're funnier, they're less likely to become an actual comedian, because I guess it goes back to kind of that self-belief thing where they're like, I'm not gonna step up on that stage and say like I want to be a funny guy. I'm not willing to do that. Whereas an American is like more open to it. Like, yeah, I'll step on the stage. I think I'm pretty funny. Let's find out. I guess they're in a sense more open to taking chances, more open to taking risk, and chasing their dreams. Whereas British, I guess, aren't in a sense. I guess they lack as much self-belief as Americans for the most part. Is kind of what I'm hearing.
You know, even within that sort of self-belief, it's one and the same. I think it's agency, it's the preparedness to go against the grain. And, you know, this, we're going to talk about subprime audiences later on. But, you know, this audience is like, I would say like it's full of like A's and double A's of people, especially the ones from the UK. And I think the reason that this resonates, I'm not saying it to disparage the UK, I don't think either of us are, but to kind of reassure the people for whom they feel a little bit like square peg in a round country, sat in the UK some normal town. You're in fucking Wakefield or Carlisle or Middlesbrough, Rochdale, wherever you are. And you think, God, this is the sort of conversations I really love to have. This is the kind of thoughts that I think about. And I really want to have big dreams for myself. And then I just really struggle to resonate with the people around me. I really, really fail to do that. And I think I wish that I'd had, when I was younger, more reassurance that I wasn't the problem. There's no value judgment. People that have big dreams, people that don't have big dreams, but there's nothing inherently wrong with you having those dreams, and there's no reason that you should be castigated or have the piss taken out of you because you want to do something different. Because you don't intend being born, living, working, and dying within the same 20-mile radius of where your parents grew up.
Yes. But even at a walking around level, you see this. So if you walk around America, there's flags everywhere. Mm-hmm. There's kind of pride in the nation. Mm-hmm. If you walk around the UK and you see a flag, you go, oh, fuck.
EDL member.
There might be a Nazi, which is crazy. Unless there's a football tournament, then everybody does it. That's the weird paradox of the UK.
Yeah.
So it's even at that level, you see this kind of pride at the nation level. And at the UK, it's almost like this weird autoimmune condition.
Do you have any idea why the British football team uses 3 lions rather than the St. George's Cross?
Don't know.
Isn't that interesting? Because I don't think Scotland does, and I don't think Ireland does, and I don't think Wales do. And I can't think of any other team. Actually, the England cricket guys will do the same thing. There must be a reason. Someone will be correcting me in the comments as we speak. But that's, for the Americans that are listening, British national pride, like BNP, British national pride, no, it's not that, but like, it's just, it doesn't exist. And then you come over here and it is nice. It's nice to hear that people have got pride in their country.
So probably the critique people have of us right now is that we're critiquing Britain way more than we are critiquing America. But I'd also point out that's part of being British. You're way more naturally to critique yourself than to critique other people. And I do love that side of being British because you're way more self-analytical.
I feel that.
In terms of other differences between...
I definitely feel that because I feel like here in America, you're definitely more likely to criticize others before you take a look in the mirror. You're definitely more likely to look at others and be able to see their mistakes or their flaws than to see your own. I'm a firm believer, like, we're all our own worst critic, but there's a lot of people over here who think they itch don't stink. Do you feel me? Who think they're just absolutely perfect, can do no wrong, nothing's ever their fault. And so, but they critique, like, everywhere else. They've got these critiques about how everywhere, but yet they look at America and think, oh, well, America's incredible, America's amazing. And while I believe America is incredible and amazing, I'm also able to realize, hey, well, we do got issues. We do got a lot of problems that we got to fix. But we love the country. Love it. Love living here. But there is still a lot that we need to work on. To be as great, I think, as not everybody, but a lot of people already have in their minds, as great as they think we are. We've got things we need to work on. But, I don't have a problem with people like the flying flags and showing national pride. I think that's cool. I think that's awesome to be happy about the country that you're from. Like, really dope. Nationalism, not an issue with me. But then again, I also believe that, like, we're brought up at an early age to, like, be proud of our country. We're told at an early age America's great, and we're told all the amazing deeds that America has done and all the incredible things and how awesome it is. So it's almost like that national pride is instilled within you from a very, very young age, and you grew up being told that your whole life. So I think that's why we have so much people that are so proud to call themselves American, because it's just instilled in you at a very young age. I'm not sure how it is in Britain, but I think Brits are really awesome. I think Brits are super dope. I react to a lot of British content and the things that they've done for the world and the history that they've had. One of the largest empire, actually the largest empire ever. All the things that they've done are just extremely sensational. All right, but let's keep it rolling.
I think in terms of other differences between the UK and the US that I've noticed, in terms of benefits for Brits, is because Brits like take the piss out of one another on average, way more. It means that you do have maybe that lowering self-belief, but you're almost a bit more anti-fragile. So if people do say a remark, you've already cracked a joke worse than that in the past, or your friends have. Particularly, and I think the more northern in the country you go, the more
it is the further away from London that you get, the more piss you have taken out of you.
Exactly. Whereas in America, I think people are a lot more, could be more fragile to comments like that. Whereas the Brits, the same way, I always say another difference, there's two big differences that I think explain the differences between Americans and Brits. So one is simple A/B test of when you meet an American and they're super enthusiastic and excited, and the Brits aren't. If you actually go historically back, there was a simple A/B test, which is when the boats came and said, hey, there's this promised land far, far away. We can't show you a video because videos don't exist yet. You may die on the boat. Do you want to come and visit this crazy land? The Brits were the ones who were like, what a ridiculous idea that is. I'm going to stay here.
I'm staying in Skegness.
And the Americans were the ones who were like, yeah, bring it on. Yeah. And that A/B test fundamentally explains it. As well as when you think about it, historically, Americans have, apart from Pearl Harbor, and that was quite far away from America, let's be honest, have never had an attack on their homeland in recent history.
9/11 not count?
The 9/11, yeah, there you go. That's one example. But comparing that to the bombing, like World War I and World War II, like the whole cities completely destroyed. So there's definitely more like scar tissue built up that makes Brits, I think, a little bit more grittier in some regards than Americans as well.
Yeah,
I think I'd have to agree with that. Just like you said, based off circumstance, based off these attacks that would make them more grittier. Like I've seen the Brits, I've seen a lot of British World War II videos and what they had to go through with the bombings and then the rationing, and it's like, and it wasn't just the men in World War II. No, it was literally every citizen, man, woman, and child, like coming together and getting the country through World War II, fighting against the Germans. It's like every single citizen in that country. So I think they are tougher. Like he said, that scar tissue is built up. I really like how he explains things. I feel like he words them so perfectly. But yeah, that scar tissue is built up. And then I think Americans are a lot more sensitive. A lot more. Now I love joking around with friends. I'm one who likes to, like, I want you to clown me, I'll clown you. That's how I know that we're close. If I can clown you and know that you know that I'm not coming from a mean place or a place with malicious intent, I'm just clowning you because that I'm close to you, I'm comfortable with you, and so I'm gonna take the piss out of you. I'm gonna clown you. I'm gonna joke with you. That's who I am, and so I love when people clown me. I just laugh. Like if you say something funny about me, like I'll absolutely laugh because I don't take myself too seriously, and I know I'm not perfect. I know I got flaws. Every human does. But yeah, here in America, I think from watching British content and then comparing it to here in America, yes, the British are a lot less sensitive. They're a lot more anti-fragile when it comes to a lot of things. So I got to agree with them on that statement.
I don't know, man.
I'm pessimistic.
Yeah, I can tell. It's... For certain people, I had this discussion with Piers Morgan. Piers was like, I like people bringing me back down to earth. I like the mockery and stuff. I'm like, Piers, that's great for you. It doesn't seem to work too well for me. Like my desperate requirement for validation and reassurance from the world, like wasn't being very satiated in Stockton, right, or Newcastle. And then you come over here. One of the best things, and this is something that anybody anywhere on the planet should do, and this is one of the coolest life hacks I've taken since being in America. And you've seen me do it to you, and you've like toe cold at a bunch of parties, which is when in America, at least in my group of friends, you are the new person in a group. Your friend that knows you and knows the group will introduce you and tends to do it in the best 30-second show reel of you that anybody could give. You know, he's got this amazing marketing agency. He's a phenomenal writer, and he's pivoting. He's kind of champagne homeless at the moment. He does all of these things. And, like, that's a really lovely gesture. It's your friend. It's an opportunity for them to do something nice for you. It gives you the best impression on the group, and it reminds you about what your friend kind of says about you behind your back when you're not there. And it's like it inflates you a little bit and makes you feel good and warm and stuff. What would the equivalent be if you were a British friend being introduced to British friends by a British friend?
it would be your worst ever story.
Correct.
Certainly the northern. Again, this is a northern thing. I think.
This is George shit himself last week. Like, you know what I mean? Still has wet dreams.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Yeah. It is interesting, like the introduction side, how we introduce one another. I've definitely found Americans are much better at selling themselves immediately, whereas I think Brits often downplay themselves immediately. There's a big difference there in terms of like ever so slight cultural differences. One of the reasons why I think America has been so successful so far, and one thing Britain could improve upon, is if you look at human beings, I think what makes human beings, if you put one human being in a jungle, it's that classic phrase that you put one human being in a jungle and you've just introduced prey into the environment. But if you put 1,000 human beings into the jungle, you've just introduced a apex predator of which the world's never seen before. So the only thing that really makes it special, if you...
Bro, who is this man? Y'all tell me who is this man's immediately. Because everything he says, he has an example. He has an analogy. He has something perfect. You put one human being in a jungle, you introduce prey. You put 1,000 human beings in a jungle, you introduce an apex predator. Facts.
Never seen before. So the only thing that really makes us special, if you look at us, we don't hear that well compared to our animals. We're not that fast. We're not that strong. We're pretty shit across the board, but our ability to cooperate is what makes us unique. It's the classic Steve Jobs thing of, if you looked at, I think it's energy efficiency in movement, humans are so far down the rankings. Like there's so many animals ahead of us in terms of, to do a mile, how much energy they need to burn. But if you look at a human being on a bicycle, like human beings are just blown through the charts. And he has this great quote, which is, the computer is the bicycle of the mind. And if you then go back to, well, ultimately the only thing that makes us unique human beings, because we're shit about everything compared to our animals, is our ability to cooperate. If you have a more enthusiastic society that supports one another more, you can cooperate more, which means that you'll then have way more economic output, because in a certain country that's more optimistic, that goes, I've got this idea, a load of naive Americans are like, great idea, let's do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Whereas a culture that's more maybe cynical means that those ideas don't happen, which I think explains why across these universities we have essentially the same IQ levels, the same intelligence levels.
Better accents,
more salmon, but 5x the number of entrepreneurs in America.
In other news,
I think I really agree, but I'm going to let him finish before I say anything else.
This episode is brought to you by Momentous. They make the highest quality supplements on the planet. I've fallen in love.
Okay, I think the rest of it is just kind of sponsorship. But yes, I freaking agree. Because when I think about things, it's like literally my brain always goes to the positive, always goes to being like super optimistic. Like, I'm doing this, I'm taking this risk, but if it works out, look at everything that could happen. Look at all the amazing things that could happen, bro. Like, this could be crazy for the future. Instead of like ever looking at it like, I'm taking this risk. If it don't work out, I'm gonna be put in a terrible situation. And I just don't think about things like that. I literally, now don't get it wrong. If I'm gonna take a risk, it's gonna be very calculated. I'm not just gonna go out on a limb and take a risk, and it's gonna be very calculated. But if I do decide to take it, then the reason I'm going to take it is because I'm only thinking about the positives. Like, I'm thinking about everything that it could do for me. I guess against everything it could do against me. So more so than not, if I do take a risk, it's going to be like the reward is going to much outweigh the consequences. So yeah, if it works, it's going to be absolutely amazing. If it doesn't work, and I can say that I tried, and I don't have to have this regret. At least I tried. So, but yeah, I literally look, whenever I think about things, like, optimistically. It would be my personality for sure. That's all we have for this video. Let me know what you guys think about what they said. I really like how they compared us in so many different ways. And I mean, at the end of the day, listening to all the conversations, I think I just go back to the beginning of when he said Americans are just Brits with self-belief. And that's kind of what they basically just expanded on that throughout the entire video. And I think this was a really awesome video. Like I said, please talk to me in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think about it. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and watch the next video. See you guys next time.